Welcome back to the List Building Lifestyle. I'm your host, Igor Kafetz, and today I have the privilege of speaking with a true titan of direct response marketing, someone who's not just studied the greats, but worked alongside them to build some of the most successful marketing campaigns in history. If you've ever studied sales copy, list building, or customer acquisition, this man's name has to be on your radar, and it probably came up. He's spent over 30 years at Boardroom Inc. He's managed 9-figure marketing budgets, sent over 1.3 billion pieces of direct mail, and worked with some of the greatest copywriters of all time, including Gene Schwartz, Gary Bencivenga, Dan Kennedy, and Jay Abraham. He is also the author of 2 essential books for anyone serious about marketing and entrepreneurship. His first book, Over Deliver, is a masterclass on how to create marketing that stands the test of time by focusing on relationships, trust, and the long game. In it, he reveals the secrets of the greatest direct response marketers and how to apply their timeless principles to the digital world. He also co-authored The Advertising Solution, which is a deep dive into the strategies of 6 of the most legendary marketers: Claude Hopkins, Eugene Schwartz, David Ogilvy, John Caples, Robert Collier, and Gary Halbert. Today, as the founder of Titans Marketing, he teaches high-level entrepreneurs how to master direct response principles and apply them in the digital age. Welcome to the show, Brian Kurtz.
Thank you, Igor. One small correction: Advertising Solution came before Over Deliver, and it actually inspired me to write Over Deliver. And interestingly, the Advertising Solution, which does profile those 6 legends, was brought to me almost as a complete manuscript by Craig Simpson, who's a direct mail savant. And he said, I want to do this book. You're the only person I would do it with. Otherwise, I'll do it myself. And when someone said, flattery doesn't work on everyone, but it works on me. So, I got that from Mark Ford. And I thought, this would be great. He did all the heavy lifting. I definitely made the book a lot better, and he admits that, because I reformatted it. I put bullets, checklists. It becomes like a marketing checklist kind of book. But after I finished it, I got feedback from some of my mentors like Jay Abraham and Perry Marshall, and they said, it's a good book, and they wrote good testimonials for it. And this is a good lesson in getting testimonials and how you position a book. But they both said, a few people said to me, they go, Brian, really good book, but it's not you. It's not written in your voice. There are things that are my voice inside the book. Not that Craig has a bad voice, but it wasn't my voice. And I realized that now I'm on the hook, because if I don't do a book that's my voice, I will disappoint my mentors. And I've spent my whole career not disappointing my mentors and also continuing to learn from them. And so that got me going with, developing Over Deliver, which was basically started with my blog post of, 6 or 7 years, and putting them together with a developmental editor. I just think that, everybody listening to this call today or watching this should really just think about what they have to share with the world.
Yeah, there's lots of really good points there. And I agree. I believe there's a book in everyone. I just think that people have different formats in which they like to communicate. For me, for many, many years, it was a big challenge to try and squeeze a book out of me. Although I've done thousands of webinars, I've written tens of thousands.
So your book was written basically in a way. Yeah.
I blogged for a full year every day, and minimum 500 words every day. So there was plenty of content there. It's just, when you think about it in the frame of a book, your brain freezes sometimes. Like, oh, I'm not an author. But I find the same to be true about many people when it comes to lists. When it comes to mailing their lists, they're afraid to email the list. Like, they can write an email to a friend. They can write like a customer support complaint email, but they won't write won't go to marketing email to save their life because they're just so afraid of it.
Yeah, great points, Igor. It's so interesting that, the idea of not being afraid of writing. It's not, everybody doesn't have to write a book, but everybody needs to write, either a journal or to yourself. And the interesting thing is that when I was thinking about writing Over Deliver, I had, like I said, 4 or 5 years of blog posts. And my blog posts are a lot longer than 500 words, to the chagrin of many of my subscribers. Brian, these are too long. But I tell stories. I go off on tangents. It's just my writing style. And I said, oh, I'll just take the blogs and I'll shove them between two covers, and that'll be good. And every blog will be a chapter. And I was told I was on a podcast with somebody like you, somebody smart who's been in the business for a while, and great guy. His name is Tom Morcus. And I remember the conversation. He said, Brian, don't do that. You need to like weave the thing. It's got to have interstitials. The whole book should be a story, and you can do that. I said, how do I do that? He says, you have to hire a developmental editor. And I remember I found a woman. She was amazing. We spent 2 days in a hotel suite. I actually printed out all of my blog. So I was able to create the chapters of Over Deliver by sorting my blog posts. And then it got easier and easier once we started working together when I started working together with the editor. And that's how the book became. So based on what you said, you have all this content, and I'm sure a lot of people listening to this or watching this have a lot of content. Just if you have to print it out and sort it, there's no excuse for not reassembling your content. Gene Schwartz, one of the great copywriters of all time, a mentor of mine, wrote Breakthrough Advertising, written in 1966. It's as relevant today as it was then. And he used to say, I don't write copy, I assemble copy. And I always love that quote, because the idea of assembling copy is how I think about it, like when I did my book. But also, he would, the first thing he would ask me, I'd hand him, I had the best list we had the best list at Boardroom to sell our book. So I didn't have to worry about, and we'll get into list selection shortly, I'm sure. But I had the best list, and I'd hand him a book, like a health book. And I'd say, Gene, write me a package or a sales letter for this health book. His first question every time, and after a while I anticipated the question, his first question was, Brian, what's not in the book? Meaning, are there things that are on the cutting room floor that the editors didn't approve for this book that might have been the most cutting edge things, which I can write even better copy for? I mean, that's the way he thought. I mean, that's like 6 steps ahead, right? As a copywriter, copywriting is not a commodity. And I struggle with people who write me, I get emails all the time. Brian, can you recommend a good copywriter? It's not like recommending a painter, to paint your house. It's not like recommending a plumber to fix your pipes. Those people have to be vetted, of course, but copywriting, and I marvel at it. I marvel at it because anybody who has that magic that can get people, stimulated, as Marty Edelston, my mentor and the founder of Boardroom, used to say, you got to make your prospects vibrate. And, anybody who can make them vibrate and then reach into their wallet and pull out their credit card. I work with every great copywriter. That's my claim to fame. I've worked with every great copywriter who's been alive during my 45 years in the business. And now, with AI and ChatGPT and all of that, that's not a replacement for copywriting. And, the idea that Kevin Rogers, who's a great coach for copywriters, he runs a company called Copy Chief. He did a blog post. I love this this subject line. He said, you either have to be the best or you're a bot. And so it's the best versus the bots. And what does it mean to be the best over a bot? There's work involved. And now it's harder because you can get workmanlike copy out of ChatGPT. You can put it up and probably make some sales. But that's not world-class copy. World-class copy comes from the world-class copywriters. And my regular blog post, I don't use ChatGPT. I always write it from scratch. And that's just, maybe I'm being stubborn when I say that, but I'm not, it's not that I'm too old to change. It's that I want to know that I put my blood, sweat, and tears into this with no assistance. That may be just stubborn. I admit that. But I do use ChatGPT for certain types of blog posts that I need more workmanlike copy. But when I'm writing from my heart, I'm writing from my heart, and that's the way I'm going to do it till I die. I just know it. You're a lot younger than me, but you are wise beyond your years because it took me a lot longer to get where you are now.
Well, you didn't have access to all the internet and,
Yeah, I don't like to use that as an excuse. I think I was a slow learner, and I had money. So I would pay to learn it. I'd be in masterminds, and slow learners with money can really.
They're the best for masterminds.
Yeah, they are.
You would
they don't
know.
leave. I am all in on the masterminds I pay for, and the people who are in my masterminds. If they're slow learners with money, I like them.
Yeah. So what I mean by that, though, is not so much the age; it's the amount of years invested in copy, in all work related to copy.
Right, and it's not 1 year's experience. It's 1 year's experience cumulatively over years. So if you do the same thing every year, you could have 40 years of 1 year's experience, but 40 years of cumulative experience is mind-boggling when you think about it. And whatever you have, 20, 25 years or whatever.
Probably no less. I'd say 15-ish, maybe a bit less than that, but still enough years to look at what ChatGPT produces and say, dude, this is crap. And I don't like that. The other day I was working on a new webinar. I don't like to start from scratch. So I tend to study a lot of material by other copywriters and kind of keep an open mind as far as what content I consume. But then I go to ChatGPT, or more recently to the new Chinese Deep Seek.
I'm just looking at that now. It's wild.
It's pretty good. And I basically make it give me ideas. So I say, this is the product, and I want you to take on a role of an experienced direct response copywriter with a knack to produce angles and etc. And let's do angles. Show me 2 angles at a time, and I'll tell you which ones I like and which ones I don't. And what I find is the first wave of material that it throws my way is usually regurgitated, boring.
It's coming from the internet. It's what's been done. Yeah,
it's beaten to death. And I tell ChatGPT, and I say, look, if it can describe at least 3 other offers in the same industry, do not give it to me. And it still won't listen to me. It keeps throwing the same crap my way. So I just have to say.
And it's also like platitudes, and it's like repetitive, and
extremely repetitive. The most annoying thing is you tell it not to do something, it says, okay, and immediately does it. I just want to shoot it. I just want to throw my laptop out the window when it does that. But every now and again, it'll throw out something like some sort of hint or word or frame that'll get me going and be like, oh, wait, this is good. And then you can flow with it and explore it. And
exactly.
A better idea. So I like it as a tool that allows you to never start from scratch, effectively beating writer's block.
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe in writer's block, and that's because I learned from Gene Schwartz, who used the Pomodoro method, in terms of the Pomodoro technique, where he's used
25 minutes work and 5 minutes.
Yeah, I have an egg timer on my desk.
Oh, I broke a timer just like it by twisting it the other way when I was angry. So
well, you know what? This is the 6th year renewal bonus for Titan's Accelerator, and if this interview goes well, I'll send you one as my gift. And also, I also follow, as far as writer's block goes, it's an interesting topic because I wrote a blog post, The Cure for Writer's Block, and there's no cure for it, but John Carlton, the great longtime copywriter, who's got courses on copy, just a wonderful guy, brilliant.
He was the first guest on this show.
Really? He's an amazing guy. He's just he comes off as crusty, but he's got a huge heart. And he talks about he talks about being mindful of everything around you. It sounds simple, right? But he says, and this goes back to,
I think he mentions the Marine that he met in the bar.
Yeah, and he also met he was on a tennis court, and he noticed something going on, I forget the situation, but you can, blog ideas and ideas to write are all around you. In fact, Dan Kennedy, the great marketing guru, says, he talks about marketing by walking around. But there's copywriting by walking around too. And by walking around, you can either physically walk around on the outside, which you always should do, especially if you can go into places like, stores where your customers might be that you might want to write to, or you spend time walking around on the internet. You go spy in on forums and groups where your audience hangs out and see what the language that they're using, see the stories that they're telling. You're going to come up with ideas as long as you're engaged with the world. It sounds so simple, right? Because I think people who write there are a lot of people who write, and content writers more than creative copywriters, but I think all writers, they think they're going to put their headphones on, maybe do the Pomodoro technique and focus in on, the topic or task at hand, and then they'll be done and they'll get something written that way. But you know what? You gotta be out there getting ideas, and it seems simple. But I think
content writers don't understand that because they don't need to sell ideas. As a copywriter, you have to tap into an existing desire, just like Gene Schwartz says.
Right, the desire is out there. You don't create the desire, but
you have to do it by presenting something that seems like new. And you mentioned the word fascination. It's new and exciting.
Exactly.
And so you can't do it by describing. So you oftentimes have to find an old idea, because very few ideas are truly new when it comes to solutions.
Right.
But you have to present it in a new and exciting way. And most content writers don't need to do that. They just write content about whatever the topic is. They're writing about corporate law. That's what they write about. But as a copywriter, you have to go way beyond that. And it's a different flavor of writing.
Yeah. That's why Breakthrough Advertising is such an amazing book, because Gene breaks down all of that by the level of awareness of your audience and the level of sophistication of your audience. So, someone might be problem aware. They might be aware of the problem they're having, but they have no idea what the solution is. And so if you can identify that audience and you can come up with the solution and not just ram it down their throat. You got to do it with poetry. That's what copywriters are so amazing, that they finesse it. There's a video of Gene presenting, and he says, "I don't get writer's block," and I believe him. I believed him because he had a system and he was a big walking on the outside guy. He read everything, which is another thing. You got to read a ton to be a great copywriter or to really understand direct marketing. And he read things like from academic journals, like the most boring, dry stuff. And his favorite magazine was the National Enquirer, which, if those people don't know what it is, it's, kind of a rag, not a rag in terms of, it's readable, it's gossip stuff. But that's what people are reading. And he wants to know he said, I do have a quote of his. It's like, if you don't spend at least, 2 hours a day thinking about your market and the people that you want to write to, you're finished, basically. You got to think about what they're reading, and that's why you go into forums and you go to Amazon and look at the 5-star and 1-star reviews of the books they're reading. You learn that, because as he says right at the beginning of Breakthrough Advertising, it's the copywriter doesn't create desire. The desire is already in the marketplace, and it's the copywriter's job to finesse it, to identify it, and then write about it. And then he goes into, in Breakthrough Advertising, all of the awareness and sophistication levels, because you got to write to different audiences, different ways. And he was writing before the internet. If Gene was alive today, he would love the idea of pinpointing copy, like an email, emails to, a certain subsegment of awareness, and just go with them with a particular approach. And that's why it kills me that, online, a lot of online people who are online all the time, that they're okay with one size fits all email or messages. Like even on Facebook, you can segment your audience, and you should have different messages for different audiences. That goes without saying. I did it in direct mail to some degree, which is a lot harder to do, because we're paying postage and printing, and the segments that you mail to with direct mail is that you pay higher postage when you segment test panels, as they call them. So it wasn't easy to do different creative to different elements of your list. Lists are the backbone of any marketing program. Constantly reminding myself that lists are people too. And, lists are not just names on a paper. And not only are they not names on a paper, everyone is individual. You have to put them in segments, of course, by sex, by income, by interest area, by and you go deep into sophistication and the areas that Gene Schwartz covers in breakthrough advertising. But I mean, you should always be writing to one person. Dean Jackson, one of the great marketers, I just saw him last week at a mastermind, and he talks about this concept, which is one that's been around for a while, but he pinpointed it. He said, when you're writing an email, and you talked about it too, Igor, when you said, writing emails to your friends is the same thing as writing promotional emails to, not exactly, but you have to think about what are you trying to accomplish? What's your objective? And the only way to do that is to write to an individual. Like I try to get even a face in my mind of someone who, is, someone who represents who I'm writing to. And that's why, your list is your online family. They will give you feedback. And, these days, open rates are not only overrated, but they're irrelevant to some degree. But the key number is clicks. So you have to have, really good content that they can click to. And used to be clicks were eyeballs, and everybody said that's bullshit. Now clicks is a much better metric. And the best metric is engagement. I encourage engagement with my list. It's like I make some, point about some concept, and I say, what do you think? Give me your case history. And if I get some good ones, I'll share it in a future blog, which I do. So the idea of encouraging engagement all the time and not just, talk at them and preach at them and lecture them, that's a way to create a list building lifestyle or a family building lifestyle that, enriches both your audience and yourself. Because sometimes people say, they call bullshit on me, and I take it seriously. Not as an insult, not as like that they're being annoying. I take it in as fact first, and I say, okay, if I take it in as fact, how can I use this? And I say the same thing with my book, both my books, but definitely Over Deliver. I've read every 1-star review multiple times. I've gotten 6 1-star reviews out of like 320 or 350 reviews. Those 6, I actually did a blog post, and I cited each of the 6 1-star reviews, not getting defensive, because my point was, if you take it in as fact, even if it isn't fact, it's still subjective, but take it in as fact, you'll learn so much more from it. And so every one of the 6 had a point. Did I agree with them? No, not totally. One of them I really agreed with 100%. He said one of the chapters in my book was too repetitive, and it's true. But
is that really a reason to give a 1-star review, though?
Yeah, it's weird because I don't think he got past chapter 2, so he gave the whole book a 1-star review. So that's the problem. But his point about chapter 2, that it's repetitive, and it was all about original source, where babies come from. Basically, everything is fundamental, bedrock rules of thumb and marketing eternal truths that everything is built on. You said it already. You said what's been invented, that's new, right? But it's a build. You build on it. And I repeated it over and over again in different words, and he actually cited every time I did it. So it was a brutal review to read. But
some people are just petty.
Yeah, they have a lot of time. They have a lot of time on their hands. But it was so instructional for me. It was so wonderful. In fact, the subject line was "Haters gonna hate, so love them." And that's how I live my life, to get defensive immediately, that's just not going to be productive. Now, eventually, in my private moments, I might say that guy is a jerk for doing that for other reasons, but I take it in as fact initially and then see how it plays out. I prided myself over blogging for, I guess, 12 years or 11 years that I respond to every email. Now, a lot of people who are, have much bigger lists and much bigger followings can't do that, but most people can, and they don't. And I think it's a mistake. Can I prove that by doing that, I've made more money? I think so. Maybe not on one email that I get more money because someone bought something because I engage with them. But I think in the aggregate, I'm constantly responding and engaging and being with people. So I believe that, if you're one of my subscribers and you write to me and I engage with you and nothing happens after that, this is where I get a little spiritual. I say, it's just good karma. You're putting good karma in the world. So I might get something from a different direction from someone else, and I'll take it. And that might be, it's not directly related to, putting out the good karma all the time, but I'd rather put out good karma all the time than put no karma. And certainly you don't want to put out bad karma. But no karma gets you nowhere. At least good karma might end up being, and I do have people who are in my online family who have bought stuff from me, and it's not all about the money either, but ultimately everybody's in business to make money. And so there are people that, after 3 years of being in my online family actually buy something, and then they tell me about it. They say, I've been reading your stuff for 3 years. I love you, really complimentary. And I finally bought Breakthrough Advertising, or I finally bought Over Deliver. And I just thanked them profusely. I said, some people take their time. That's fine. I'm patient. I usually make a comment like, I've been patient with you, and I'm glad I was, And sometimes people will write to me and go, is this really you, Brian? Like they really assume that I would never respond to their emails off a blog post. And so just that always makes my day when they're surprised. And then I have to reiterate, yes, it's me, Look, all of this takes time. It's time consuming, but I don't know. What else am I doing besides engaging with the universe? What else am I doing besides wanting to teach direct response principles to a new generation? That's my mission. So if that's my mission, I need to be consistent in terms of how I engage with my audience. So I'm not preaching to anybody to do this, and I'm not lecturing anybody to do this, but I'm the subject of your podcast today. Your podcast is titled List Building Lifestyle, and that's my lifestyle, and that's how I build my list and how I not just build it, but I keep them engaged, and they stay on my list. They don't unsubscribe. They don't leave me, and that's a good thing if I want to have a list that stands the test of time.
Indeed. All right. Well, you're very good at going on, on your own. Very cool. Very easy.
I know. And you can also say that you also say I don't shut up, but that's okay.
Oh no, it's very convenient for a host. It's like
for a host, yes.
I had a list of all these questions. I didn't even need to ask them. Like you sort of accidentally went into half of them anyway. Yeah.
So, is there one that you absolutely wanted to ask that I didn't answer?
I actually want to do something else. So this is an idea from my editor, and she thought it'd be a great idea to do some rapid fire questions with you.
Okay.
Which means you can't go on and answer them in your usual fashion where you just go. It has to be quick.
Okay. I promise I'll be quick on these.
So we have 7 questions, right? So I'll fire the question and you give us like a 1 or 2 statement answer. Okay.
Okay.
Right. So question number 1, what's the best headline you've ever seen?
Off the top of my head, I'll give you 2. What Never to Eat on an Airplane.
Sure, classic.
Was a classic. And then Read This or Die from Jim Rutz. That was, I just know that they work too. So that's why I'm using those. But
what was the Read This or Die about?
It was a health newsletter, I believe, written by Jim Rutz. But it was basically a lot of fear and a lot of stuff, but it was powerful. And I did a swipe file of all Jim Rutz's products, and the name of the product is Read This or Die.
Right, of course.
The Lost Files of Jim Rutz. Yeah.
How symbolic.
Oh, I got one more headline. This is too good.
Okay.
How doctors doctors don't get sick while they're around sick people all day. It's something like that. Paris Lampropoulos.
Ah,
Yeah. So it's like how doctors stay well while being around sick people all day. I thought that was a great one.
that is a great one. Awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so question number 2. What's one book? By the way, Paris is an amazing copywriter.
He's a great friend too. I just was at his mastermind.
I mean, just brilliant.
Yeah. Top shelf.
Also so cool. Like, he's so smooth, and just to talk to him is just being in his presence. It's just wow.
I love Paris.
So what's the one book every marketer or copywriter or list guy, etc., should read besides your own?
So breakthrough advertising for sure, not just because I sell it, but it is an advanced text. So it's not the first book folks should read. Mm-hmm. Now, Gene Schwartz has another book called The Brilliance Breakthrough, which is how to write. You could writing promotion, but just how to write, picking the right word for every occasion. Mm-hmm. And then I think an important, if you want to go into direct response marketing, an older book is Bob Stone's Successful Direct Marketing Methods. It's a little dated because it doesn't have a lot about the internet, but it gives you those fundamental truths. And then I would also say, like, Scientific Advertising by Claude Hopkins is one that everybody should read. Ogilvy on Advertising, Robert Collier's Letter Book, which is a snooze. So if you don't want to read that, get the advertising, my book, The Advertising Solution. I know I wasn't supposed to use my book, but we summarize Collier's book succinctly, so you don't have to read 500 pages that are kind of dry. Yeah, that's a good sampling of like classics that stand the test of time. I mean, I think The Ultimate Sales Letter by Dan Kennedy is a classic. I have in Over Deliver, my reading list. I think I have like 300 books. So I just went off the top of my head.
Okay, good. That was a great one book answer. So question number 3. I can't
resist.
I know. Question number 3. What's one piece of advice copywriters should stop following?
Oh, I think thinking that you can write for anything would be a really interesting one. Like the idea that when you're starting as a copywriter, go deep, not wide. Narrow to wide.
All right. What's your favorite sales letter of all time, and what makes it so powerful?
It's an easy one to say because it's so formulaic. But the two men, the Wall Street Journal, right. Martin Conroy. Right. Mm-hmm. I mean, it popped into my head because we were talking about it at Paris's mastermind last week, and Paris was talking about how everything is a formula, right? Mm-hmm. And so you can narrow down anything into the same formula, basically. Mm-hmm. And that one is a classic formula that will work time and again, changing the names, changing the situations or whatever. I mean, and it stands the test of time. I'm trying to think of one that we did. I mean, one of my favorites is 12 Smiling Swindlers, which was a magalog written by Eric Betwell, who's one of our great copywriters. And it's so neat because swindlers, you would think, are like crooks, right? And the 12 Smiling Swindlers are your accountant, your lawyer, the car repairman, because we were like, it was a bloodhound kind of package, which we used to do at Boardroom, which was, we're the bloodhound. We're going to seek out all the people trying to rip you off. And so it's a great conceptual thing, the bloodhound approach. Mm-hmm. And one of my favorite bloodhound packages was 12 Smiling Swindlers. So that popped into my head.
Interesting. Yeah, that does sound real powerful. I think Ben Ciavenga has something like that, where he had 4 politicians, the Wall Street broker.
Yeah.
Oh, look at all the balloons.
Gary Bencivenga also had one with us. It was called The Little Black Book of Secrets. And it was it was a bookalog. It was 64-page promotion in a book, like a little booklet size. Amazing package. It's a work of art. It really is.
All right. What's the biggest marketing mistake you've ever made, and what did you learn from it?
I have two. One is, and I've written about them. One is reading my own press clippings to my, and so we went into the infomercial business in 2004, and we were told that 1 out of 20 infomercials work. Infomercials are 28.5 minute TV promotions. They're not as popular today because of all the electronics that are involved in zapping commercials, but it basically looks like a TV show for 28.5 minutes, but it's a promotion. And we had three, so we told 1 out of 20 were going to work, and we had 3 out of 4 work immediately. And so I was like, I got this. I've mastered this shit. And we went on to do 9 more infomercials, and each one was more disastrous than the next. And we spend more money on the other ones too. So, and there were a lot of details about this. I tell it all in my book, so I don't go into the details. I'm supposed to have a short answer here, but it's don't read your press clippings. The king is dead, long live the king. So, you got a winner. And the lesson learned is powerful. Like, as soon as you have a winner, the first thing you need to do is beat it. And that's Gary Bencivenga. That was his rule of thumb. Oh, I got the control. I got the winner. Now I got to figure out how to beat it immediately. You don't just rest on it. And it's a big mistake that online marketers make. They think that they get a winner. And John Carlton talks about this. A promotion is not a business. A winning promotion is not a business. You have a winning promotion. Now you got to get a winner on top of the winner. It's like the king is dead, long live the king. So that's that. And then quickly, the other one, I won't go into the other one. The other one is a little more dicey and it'll take too long to discuss. So I'll go with I read my press clippings and it slapped me.
All right. If you could only use one persuasion technique in copy, what would it be?
The word that, and it's terrible that the first word that came into my head was fear. But fear with integrity, I'd say, which I'm making up. But I think that you need to get people's attention, And so, I was just having a discussion with somebody about a product estate planning product, which is it's something that nobody wants to think about. It's not sexy. And the only way to get their attention, even when they're 50 or 60 years old and they don't have an estate plan, is to tell them horror stories. And so I'm going to say fear, but not like just scare the shit out of them for the sake of scaring the shit out of them. I think this isn't a technique, but it's basically, maybe it's paranoia. We had shirts printed up at Boardroom from a venture capitalist, and it was paranoia is not a psychosis, it's survival. So the idea of not making people paranoid, but making them aware that they should be paranoid about certain things. And so I guess that's a technique. I'm not proud that I just used that as the one that came into my mind. But man, there's so much noise in the marketplace. How do you rise above the noise? And as long as as long as you can tell a compelling story that basically gets them moving in the right direction, that's your goal, right? As a marketer or a copywriter. So I'll go with that. I'm not proud of that answer, but it what came into my head.
Yeah, I think you're, assigning too much blame and guilt to that. Like for me, fear has always been a big part of my success. And, if we kind of take it out of the scope of copy alone and persuasion, it's also about self-persuasion for me. For many years, I used to wear a T-shirt that had a picture of a big bear chasing a guy. And beneath it said motivation.
Yeah.
Because to me, I grew up in a world, I'm originally from Ukraine, then grew up in Israel. So I grew up in a world where that's real. Like you wake up with that sense that there's a bear coming. So paranoia is definitely a great way to to giddy up and just go do something.
You just alleviated all my guilt, Igor. So I'm good.
Yeah, that's that. As a fellow Jewish, guy, I know what guilt is all about.
Yeah,
So.
it's like you don't want to because when I've spoken internationally and I get on stage, like I did a presentation in Hungary in Budapest, and you get on stage with Hungarian entrepreneurs, which is an oxymoron in itself, right? I mean, they were communists until 1989, so these are all new entrepreneurs basically. And I get up on stage, I'm the ugly American, right? They're like holding on, they're like sitting on their hands, thinking this guy's going to rip me off. Like that was the sense I got. Now I did warm them up to me because you can see I'm just a gleeful, warm guy. But they were a tough audience to get to warm up. And so, I didn't have to scare them. In fact, I went the other way. And I basically said, you can dial up or dial down your intensity when you're selling.
Yeah.
The key was being congruent and consistent with who you are so that there's no mistaking what your intentions are and you make them known early on. You're not trying to hide stuff, all of that, and being transparent. I'd say another technique which feels even better than, well, not better than fear, but transparency. Like tell the truth. Like tell the evil, like, people who tell like and you don't want to lie. You don't want to lie about your story, but your story about, growing up in Israel and Ukraine could be part of a sales letter. It is. Okay. Yeah. Part. So that,
and I show pictures of the city center, and I show photos from attending the Air Force Academy and everything.
Exactly. So,
and it's interesting because, sorry to cut you there, but
no, that's okay.
A lot of people mention that. So when they talk to us about why they decided to work with me, they mention that, oh, Igor, something about his story, or Igor mentioned he was in the Air Force and I was in the Air Force, or Igor is an immigrant and, I'm an immigrant. And so these affinity points eventually become reasons to do business with me. I don't think on their own they do the selling.
No, but you're a package. You're a package.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one, actually. Just truthful transparency. And transparency should always be truthful. But I only say truthful transparency because there's a lot of bad transparency because it's not really transparency on the internet, especially. So I
think there's a lot of power as well to calling out, like you did in Hungary, kind of calling out what they're thinking, a negative thing, kind of like an elephant in the room technique.
Yeah. Overcoming objections, all of that. Yeah,
kind of just saying, look, I know that's what you're all thinking.
I did exactly that.
On the table, I'm a greedy American.
I'm the ugly. I said the ugly American. I'm the ugly American, and I'm not going to rip you off. I promise. That kind of thing. And then I basically talked about why marketing is not evil. That's how I started the presentation.
I think that should be taught in itself as a course or coaching program. People just really think that marketers are evil.
Yeah, no, I got marketing is evil, and then I went into marketing isn't everything, it's the only thing, and I discussed that. And then I went into specialization and what we talked about, the narrow to wide concept, that everybody in that room, whether you're Hungarian, whether you're Dutch, whether you're American, whether you're African, Japanese, everybody wants to make money. Everybody wants to make a difference in the world. And without marketing, you got nothing.
Yeah. I got a great story real quick before we move to the final question about the whole, there was just a point we were talking about, for some reason it's escaping me, having a brain fart.
No, you're like me now. Yeah.
Dude, I've told you, I'm old. I told you. So it's onset of Alzheimer's, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So anyway, here's the story. I went to this dinner. A Jewish family, several Jewish families got together for a Shabbat dinner. It was a great time. Everyone had a great time. It was fun. It was loud. We did everything, did the candles, the breaking challah, the prayer, everything. Although I'm not religious, like it was still a very nice community kind of like feel. And I was barely in Canada. I was like maybe 1 year into my life in Canada. And then all of a sudden, I'm not getting invited anymore. And through somebody else who attends these dinners, I was told that the reason I wasn't getting invited is because the host Googled me, found out that I was an internet marketer, and thought that I was a scammer and therefore wouldn't invite me.
Unbelievable.
Can you believe that? So that's what I'm saying. They got to teach that marketing is not evil. Marketers are not evil.
There are evil marketers. There are evil marketers.
There are, yeah, but there's also evil lawyers and the 12 swindlers. There's evil everywhere.
Exactly. The world is evil. So you have to be the high integrity, high transparency marketer. And that's how I teach. I emphasize that more when I teach internationally, like when I taught in Japan, Germany, Holland, Italy. I've done a lot of presentations internationally, and that's been my approach all the time. So we can get on the same wavelength. As you said, I need to knock down their preconceived notions. Some of them I didn't need to. Some of them were already doing marketing, so it wasn't like everybody in the audience. But I went least common denominator just to make sure we were all on the same page. And I'm going to be transparent with you. You can trust me. But I'm going to show you why I can trust you. You can trust me. I did it. I showed them my examples of my career and how I did it. And you don't just want to tell them, you want to show them.
Indeed. That's a whole other principle.
Show versus tell.
I was literally explaining this to an 18-year-old kid yesterday of how he should talk to women, because he's a football player, like a soccer player. So he's very aggressive, and he's also very masculine. So the way guys talk to each other, we stay direct.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We don't sugarcoat it. We don't pussyfoot around. If I want to say something, I'll just say it.
Right.
And I told him, look, you can't be like that with women, especially when you're just starting to date them, because you're going to scare them away.
Yeah.
And it's like show, don't tell. It's like, what is that? It's like, well, you can say that there's an attractive woman, right, entering an elevator, or you can say a guy wearing a trench coat and a hat is riding down in the elevator. On the second floor, the elevator stops. A woman walks in with red hair, red lips, and red dress. And the guy goes like perks up a little bit and takes off his hat. So that's how you say that all of a sudden.
That's a good example. That's good.
I read it somewhere. It's not mine by any means.
That's okay.
Yeah, but it's like show, don't tell is an incredibly powerful technique.
Really? Absolutely.
And I find it to be so important in parenting, for instance, because with my 12-year-old daughter, just saying things like giving her advice just doesn't work.
No, they don't want to hear it.
No, they don't. And they think you don't know anything.
So they have to see you in action. They have to see you performing. I mean, yeah. It doesn't stop, Igor. My son's 35. He still doesn't take my advice. So I try to show. Yeah. Your daughter might be better than him. So who knows?
I don't know, but it's really tough. I've lived a life. I'm telling my daughter, I'm like, I played this video game we're playing right now. Like you're going through levels and trying to acquire skills that I already passed this level. Let me tell you how. It's like,
no.
Dad, you don't understand.
They'll hear it from someone else, not you.
Yes, right?
Yeah.
Damn it, twice as fast. Okay, last question. What's one piece of marketing advice that you believe more people need to hear, but almost no one talks about?
Because everybody is selling and you need to make money. I have a phrase that says everything in business and in life is not a revenue event, but everything is a relationship event. And so the corollary to that is something I learned from Dan Sullivan of Strategic Coach and Joe Polish, which is, there are basically 5 ways you get paid, and the 5th is cash. And I think that, there's so many other ways to get paid, and I'm doing air quotes if you don't see me. And I don't think, a lot of people do talk about that, but when you're in action, like you're doing something, and it becomes like you become a slave to the payday. You could become a slave. And I'm not saying people shouldn't make money. I'm not a nonprofit. I'm not a nonprofit, but I think that, I'm patient. And I think patient marketing is something that, and I think if you're patient, you'll get, your folks will stay with you longer. I'm more into a renewal than a new customer, I guess is what I'm saying too. Mm-hmm. Like I'd rather have someone for 3 years at a lower price than the first sale and never buys from me again, mm-hmm. as a broad stroke. but I'm very conscious of people being with me for the long haul. You know, chapter 10 of Over Deliver starts with a quote, and it's "Life is long," which Marty Edelston told me, and it's like a play on "Life is short," right?
Yeah.
But if you look at life being long, because it's the only one you got, so whatever you got is your life, and it's long, whatever you got. But it's hard because people are just there's in the Broadway show Hamilton. There's a song that because Alexander Hamilton died very young in a duel with Aaron Burr, and it's a song that's titled "Why do you write like you're running out of time?" Now he was running out of time, but you know, I don't agree with that. I don't think you should take your time. I don't think that you need to
when
be
you
slow.
write, I think you totally should have a deadline. Otherwise, you're not going to write.
Right, but I'm saying that if you're writing like just for the sake of writing, and then,
When it comes to, I agree with you when it comes to relationship equity. Trying to push it is really bad idea.
Bad idea.
Yeah. Being patient is better.
Yeah. Oh, with relationships for sure. But I just think that when you're living always in a frantic state, that you're running out of time, and you're always looking like 5-10 years ahead. You know, Dan Sullivan teaches this. You know, if you're looking to the horizon, try walking there. You never can get there. So, you know, the idea is to, you know, set your life up in 90-day chunks. And then turn around after 90 days and celebrate. Then you turn around again, you go another 90 days. It's a great way to live as opposed to always living someday, one day. And so I think that, you know, I guess someday, one day is, I just think it's a prescription for either unhappiness or you'll end up not having as much joy because you'll never be satisfied.
You know, that's such an old person's advice. Forgive me. But it's like the only time you hear advice like that is from people who lived their life and can truly appreciate what they're saying. You know, because a younger person is always like,
yeah.
Especially today with this crazy productivity culture, it's like you have to not only get a lot done, but you also have to travel a lot, and you have to, you know, write a book before you're 27, and then you've got to buy 15 Bitcoins too, and then have three, you know, investment properties, and it's crazy.
That brings me to another book recommendation, Essentialism. Great book, Essentialism by Robert McCune, which is basically everything. Well, one of the things is everything in your life should be a hell yes or a no. And that's a whole nother discussion about, you know, focusing on only the important things. I got a lot of 6s, 7s, and 8s in my life, so I'm okay with that. Everything doesn't have to be a 10 for me, so I'm not saying that. But if I was practicing essentialism, would I be happier? I don't know. Maybe. I live my life the way I live it, so I can't, and I don't really want to change. I'm stubborn like that because a lot of the 6s and 7s, I get a lot of emotional value, like responding to every email, for example. People would say that's a hell no. Like, and it might be a hell no for many people. It's not a hell yes for me. It's probably an 8 or a 9 or maybe a 7, but I still do it because I get a lot of endorphin rushes from it. I get a lot of satisfaction from it, and that's good enough for me. But I think reading that book at least sees where you could go and put some guardrails. I mean, if you read Dan Kennedy on time management, you don't
literally re-listening to it right now.
Yeah, you don't have to do everything he does. I don't.
No.
But it gives you like such a structure that even if you take some of it, you'll be more productive. You'll be probably happier.
Yeah.
But he actually faxed me once and goes, Brian, I know you're out there gallivanting and doing stuff with everybody, which is you, not me, or something like that. And I took that as a compliment.
I was lucky to read that book in my either just before I turned 20 or in my early 20s.
That's early, yeah.
That's super early. And I feel so lucky that I found Dan Kennedy around that age because I was young enough to have my beliefs shaped, and I took everything he said as gospel.
So
The
you've
thing
got a lot
about
of
is,
guardrails around you
yes,
then, which is good. Yeah.
yes, and all my friends know it. They don't call me. I don't use fax, but they learn to send me text messages instead. No one just accidentally drops into my house, for
Yeah,
instance.
yeah.
And,
I
and
hate
they,
getting phone calls out of the blue. It's like people just expect you to pick it up all the time.
yes, they
Yeah,
do. And the same 18-year-old I mentioned earlier, I taught him, it's like, look, if the phone rings, you don't have to pick it up, because he
that's
would get physically
yes,
agitated, be like, it's ringing right here. We're having a conversation.
yeah, yeah,
And I can see he's going crazy. And it's like, dude, you don't have to pick it up. If it's urgent, they can call 911. If
yeah.
it's if they need you really for something, they'll text you. I
Right.
mean, it's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
With Dan Kennedy, though, I love everything he put out throughout the years, even when he puts out the same thing under a different title.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
amazing. It's still pretty
Yeah,
good.
it's good stuff.
And he's probably the only, at this point, living copywriter slash guru that I'm not going to get on the show, because I'm just afraid of him. I'm just afraid to meet the guy. His teachings were more valuable to me than anything that my father ever taught me, for sure. And when the news broke that he died, the fake news,
Yeah, well, yeah.
yeah, I couldn't believe it. I sat on the side of my bed. I cried for a little bit, and I've had plenty of death in my family, and I've been pretty cool about it. And with Dan Kennedy's stuff, it was just so yeah, definitely huge fan of Dan Kennedy here. Pretty much know all of his stuff by heart at this point.
Yeah.
All right, I wanted to encourage our listeners to go and get a copy of Over Deliver. It's available on Amazon.
Actually, if they go to overdeliverbook.com,
Oh, okay.
that would be better, because the bonus, I wrote a book called Over Deliver, so I over delivered on the bonuses. So you get a ton. You go there, and then you go to Amazon or Barnes and Noble, wherever you want to buy the book. Come back, then it opens a window, and you come back to the site, and it's the better way to buy the book, because you'll get all these 11 bonuses that are, I mean, some of them are like priceless stuff. It's like amazing. Full PDFs of 2 books by my direct mail gurus, and a Perry Marshall seminar, a Dan Kennedy swipe file that he gave out at the Titans of Direct Response.
I should have bought it there. Damn it.
And Gary Bensavenga had his Bensavenga bullets for years, and I created a PDF of all of his bullets. It's an amazing bonus package just for buying the book. So if you're going to buy the book, overdeliverbook.com, and then you're automatically going to be added to my online family. So then you get my blogs and all that. Easier if you just go to, if you don't want to spend $20 on a book and get 11 thousands of dollars in priceless bonuses, and you're too cheap, just go to briankurtz.net, opt in, and you'll become part of my online family, and that'll be just as good.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the site now, overdeliverbook.com. So don't forget what I said. Go to overdeliverbook.com, get it there, because you're going to get 11 bonuses. One is Titans of Direct Response, 6 hours of presentations featuring David Deutsch, Brian Kurtz, Paris, I can never pronounce his last name.
Lampropoulos,
Ken McCarthy, who was on the show a couple of times, Greg Renker from Guthy Renker Corporation.
Infomercials.
Yes. Yeah. Joe Sugarman, he's a legend as well.
He's passed, actually.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Yeah. That's a big loss to the industry.
It was.
We've got bonus number 2, which is the lost chapters of Over Deliver. We've got Over Deliver Copywriter's Toolkit.
Yeah, that's a 400-page swipe file.
There you go. Dan Kennedy's $1 Million Swipe File, Breakthrough Advertising, The Lost Interviews, Gary Bensavenga's Bullets, 19 full-length keynote speeches and presentations from Jay Abraham. Jay Abraham's How to Get From Where You Are to Where You Want to Be.
That's a course that it cost him like $200,000 to create. Doesn't sell it, doesn't do anything with it, and it's all free on the site.
Perry Marshall Live. I was just at his event, actually.
I did a live event with Perry in 2013, and that's the video of it. full day.
Secrets of Successful Direct Mail by Dick Benson. And finally, Confessions of Direct Mail Guy by Gordon Grossman.
Gordon Grossman was the guy who built the Reader's Digest, if anybody knows what the Reader's Digest was, but it was direct marketing heaven in the 1960s and 70s.
Yeah, so one thing I got to mention before we wrap up. So first off, guys, go to overdeliverbook.com, get it there. I actually originally got it on Amazon many years ago because I like to read on Kindle. But if I knew this site existed, obviously I would go there. And again, before we wrap up, I really want to say that your testimonial stack is the single most impressive testimonial stack I've ever seen in my life. That's the first thing I noticed about you when I started researching you. I mean, you look at your pages, and it's like, think of a top industry leader or a niche market leader, a top copywriter, a top business coach, a top guru of any kind. I think that Tony Robbins is the only guy who's not here. Everyone else is.
I've never met Tony personally.
Yeah, so it's like the testimonial stack is just incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And it was basically the building of relationship capital over 35 years at the time, 40 years. And there was some that I didn't even make the cut for the site or for the book, but and it's not the quantity, it's the quality of them.
Oh, you got both going on.
Oh yeah, Dan Kennedy's is amazing.
It's like a unicorn of a testimonial. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, Gary Bencivenga's and Jeff Walker's, and yeah, there's some amazing testimonials that I got, and I'm very proud of it. I'm proud of it. Bill Bonner and Mark Ford, both from Agora.
True.
Yeah, it's I feel blessed. So thank you for saying that.
Yeah. So guys, again, go to overdeliverbook.com, go to briankurtz.net.
briankurtz.net
to get on Brian's list and just study what he's got going on. If you're an entrepreneur wannabe, an affiliate marketer, a copywriter, any kind of business owner, offline, online, etc., freelancer, doesn't matter. Study Brian's work. You will end up making more money, have more life satisfaction, probably build better relationships, and overall adopt a mindset that's going to make you more successful.
Well, thank you, Igor. I hope I wasn't on too many reruns from our first interview. There's no other way to be, in my opinion. You always have to be a student. And I get that from you, too. I think we're very much in sync like that. And that's why I really enjoyed this interview. I'm sorry I went on too long on certain questions, but because I'm so
you over-deliver, man.
Yeah, I over-deliver. Chalk it up to passion, not just being talkative, I guess.
No, you over-deliver. That's a theme for sure.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, so guys, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the List Building Lifestyle. I had a pleasure of hosting Brian Kurtz from briankurtz.net. and from overdeliverbook.com. Go get the book, get the bonuses. It's an incredible package. I really think it's one of the best ones out there. So, Brian, thank you for taking the time. And until next time we chat, have a good one.